Hey there friend, GG here. This video is part 3 of a 5-hour retrospective on 2023 in gaming, what I consider to be the absolute best for the medium. If you'd like to check out the full video in its entirety, you can check out the link in the description, but we decided to cut it up into smaller chunks to make it more accessible for people to jump in and out of. Parts 1 and 2 are already out, and I highly recommend watching them in order, as they contain a lot of information you may be confused without. A genre I've definitely been getting into lately is the beat 'em up. It's not a hugely popular genre, but diehards swear by it. From my days playing the really bad GBA version of Marvel Ultimate Alliance as a youngster, to playing the Simpsons arcade game as a teen at my first job, to getting into 3D Streets of Rage on my 3DS, and the queens of the genre with River City Girls, the franchise has had a long list of bangers throughout the years. Battletoads, Double Dragon, Shredder's Revenge, I could go on and on. But honestly, despite so many of the iconic titles being 2D, I think the king of the genre takes place in the third dimension. I know some people argue if it should even count, but what do you do in a Yakuza game? You beat people's ass into the pavement. Hard. You know, in between the masculine karaoke, mahjong, golf, business management, bowling, kart racing, darts, pool, fishing, playing cards, and visiting the Sega arcade to win a Super Monkey Ball plush after a few rounds of Daytona. Look, I know they officially changed the series name to Like a Dragon to match the Japanese title of it, but for simplicity's sake, I'm just gonna keep calling it Yakuza. Set during the events of the 7th mainline title, we're once again stepping into the shoes of Kazuma Kiryu, now working as a secret agent to protect the orphanage he previously ran, having faked his own death and adopted the name Joryu. And to no one's surprise, the moment that any Yakuza get involved, they immediately recognize him, dragging him once again into a plot that threatens the stability of everything he's worked so hard, because, as he's learned, you can't trust the Yakuza. Set primarily in Sotenbori, you'll work from the shadows both alongside and against Yakuza and secret agents, known as the Daidoji, in order to keep the peace. Joryu ends up allying with a local informant named Akame, who you'll take jobs from in between major story beats to help the people of Sotenbori in this game's take on the various sub-stories, removing the random factor of having to wander by at specific times, which I never cared for in the original titles. These sub-stories will oftentimes bring you into conflict with local gangs, Yakuza, and the like, which will then transition you into combat mode, where Joryu proves that, even in his old age, he can still beat down 20+ men without breaking much of a sweat. In combat, you have access to 2 styles, a step down from the usual 4, but both styles offer their own unique benefits. Agent style relies primarily on the use of special Bond-esque gadgets and doesn't hit as hard as Kiryu's fists, but is faster and allows for easier dodging out of the way. Then of course, there's Yakuza style, which combines elements of Kiryu's signature Beast, Brawler, and Dragon of Dojima styles to figuratively and often literally curb stomp enemies into submission. This is my preferred style of combat, but both are effective and fun to use. And the more you play, the more requests you complete, and the more you fight, you'll learn copious amounts of cash to unlock more and more crazy moves for both styles, just like in previous games. And I think that's the key here. For as much as I've been going on about innovation being the key to my heart, even I have to admit some things just work, and that's definitely true with these games. Bringing back almost every minigame in series history, having that same signature sense of humor and charm, while still keeping Joryu, just as much of a badass as always, the flair, the over-the-top violent finishing animations, and just an overwhelming amount of stuff to do. That's what I love about these games, to an extent. When there's all this other stuff to do, it kind of makes me not want to play the main story, so the games have exceedingly large time commitments to play if you want to try to do everything. This game, however, is a lot more bite-sized and keeps the story focused without much sidetracking, and I think that's a huge plus. Joryu still gets to be the everyman badass hero we don't deserve, but also gets time to breathe and take the game at your own pace, rather than forcing yourself to rush through the story or avoid it. The soundtrack design is, as always, a plus, with banger tunes to fight to. Special highlights of the soundtrack include Bring It On, which I'm playing in the background, the battle theme while using Yakuza style, and Two-Faced Castle, which plays during one of the infamous go through the entire building and beat everyone in your path. Though this time the setting is the flashiest yet, and of course, the sounds of fists flying and faces crunching are just as satisfying as ever. I cannot, however, offer a criticism of the English voice actors this time around, as Kiryu's Japanese voice is just too iconic to me, so I played this game with Japanese voice work. But maybe leave the English VA alone, guys, he did as best as he could. I know this section was rather short, but what else can I offer? It's classic style Yakuza game using reused assets, and it's still this good because it's Yakuza. Anyone who's played these games and loved them knows what's in store. We're not a hard crowd to please. Story's taking a 10, it's just as silly and heartfelt and badass as Zero or the original game. Side content's a 10, there's more than enough minigames and underground tournament action to keep you going, and I even forgot to mention until now that there's over a dozen Sega classic games you can play in-game, both at the Sega Arcade and once you unlock the Master System. Retro game enthusiasts will get a lot out of these games within the game. Replayability is 10, it's bite-sized enough and the core combat is as fun as ever, even with only 2 styles, and the customizability of Joryu's kit can keep every playthrough different depending on what you want to focus on. Hell, I'd argue challenge runs could be more interesting than ever before here. Can we get a run where you have to kill every enemy with the exploding cigarette gadget once you unlock it? Graphics are a 10, they still look just as good as 7, and they've looked consistently good since 0. Sound design is a 10, with lots of great music and punchy sounds, and at the very minimum, the Japanese voice acting sounds relatively good to my English-speaking noggin. Gameplay I'll drop down to an 8 just because there is less customizability in your styles. I especially miss Beast style, but it's still an absolute blast letting your fists fly and throwing people around with gadgets. I will grant that level design is the game's weakest link. It does reuse many assets, a series staple at this point, though the castle is a pretty cool new area. I'll give it a 6 just for that, and at least it used a lesser scene area as its main setting. Like a Dragon Gaiden, the man who stole my eraser, the man who erased his name, brings home a 64 out of 70. What, you think I got anything else to say? It's Yakuza, go play it! When I say RPG, I'll bet the first things that immediately jump to your head are things like Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest. Maybe you're a more modern gamer, and Undertale, Persona, or Fallout comes to mind. Perhaps you're a Pokemaniac or a FromSoft fan, and those games are your first thought. All of these are equally valid answers. RPGs come in so many flavors that we have no shortage of amazing options to occupy our time with. But all of these, including some previous entries, all owe their success back to one game. Played in the basement or at a kitchen table, friends crowded around with pencils and paper and a big hefty book in the center. Of course, I am referring to Dungeons & Dragons. As a veteran of the game myself, and for a while a forever DM, I've long since craved a game that could capture the experience of the iconic tabletop RPG without the social anxiety and constantly conflicting schedules. And by golly, I found it. Warning, this section will contain spoilers for Baldur's Gate 3. I'm going to try to keep most of it vague, but if you want to go into this completely blind, and I highly suggest you do, skip to the timestamp on screen. I went into BG3 with expectations that I never would have even considered that it could meet, considering all the hype around the game. Generally speaking, when I see something hyped up so much, when I try it, I'm usually a bit disappointed, because through all my exposure, I grow these unrealistic expectations. But somehow, Larian not only managed to meet them, but completely blow them out of the water. It's not by any means a perfect simulation of the D&D experience, but it's as damn close as I think we could ever get in video game form. The systems by which the entire game operate are a technical marvel, with rolls constantly being made in the background for every action that every NPC in the game makes, with every battle placed in an interactive map with terrain variation, occasional hazards, and carefully crafted experiences. You cannot be the murder hobos, you must think of your actions before you take them carefully. Every action you take has a consequence, and it is glorious. When starting the game, you are given the choice to select one of 7 characters or create one of your own. I highly recommend doing the latter because each of these characters has their own personality and voice, as well as a story to tell that you may not get full access to if you choose to play as one of them. Personally, I wanted a class that none of my potential party members could recruit had, as well as a class that I've never played myself, which left my options down to Sorcerer and Bard. I went with the latter, and I am so glad that I did. I rarely, if ever, failed charisma checks, got plenty of amazingly written dialogue options exclusive to my class, so that I had a smarmy response to any situation, which definitely bit me in the ass a few times, but was still worth it. I even convinced an enemy to, can't say that word on YouTube, take care of themselves. Then, when I ran into them later, convinced them to join my side in the Battle of Head, during which they were unfortunately turned into a pile of goop on the floor. I managed to do almost every side quest that became available to me, though I typically avoided objectively evil actions. I maintained a commitment to being chaotic good, and I think that helped me grow and foster a relationship with all of my companions, by seeing each of their stories through, helping them to become the best versions of themselves. I was emotionally invested in each and every one of them, and though some get more screen time than others, I was constantly shifting my party to give them all time to shine, and through careful selection of dialogue choices and actions, I earned what I think is the best ending for all of them. And what an eclectic cast they are. Astarion is a delightful bastard with just as much of a smarmy streak as me, and though he tended towards evil, I managed to steer him on the right path. Will struggled to choose the right path for himself, whether to be a selfless hero but not get to live, or to do his best to help those in need while not sacrificing his own life. Gale's pain over his past with his former partner and his own arrogance, I convinced him to overcome it and become the humble hero he was meant to be. Karlach's journey to fix her overheating engine so that she could be able to be around others without fear of hurting them, Shadowheart's goal to find out her past and either choose to fulfill a lifelong dream that may not be right, or to cut her own path forward and become the person she wants to be, Lae'zel's journey to overcome the evil that rules her people's culture, each and every one of them flawlessly written. And it's not just the party that have these arcs, NPCs have them too. From the camp of tieflings, to those involved in our heroes' pasts, to the bosses themselves, they each are amazingly written. My favorite example, by far, is Raphael. I shut him down at every opportunity, knowing that making a deal with the devil will always come back to burn you. I invaded his home in the Hells and stole an important artifact. I knew a conflict with him would happen before we left, but my jaw hit the floor when the battle begins, and a haunting operatic voice begins to sing about the lives of mortals, followed by the bastard himself singing his own fucking boss theme like a Disney villain. He was a bard the whole time, and all that did was invigorate me to kick his ass even harder to prove that I was the superior master of performance. It was even funnier when he failed a check against Tasha's hideous laughter from me and proceeded to spend almost the entire fight unable to do anything. The gameplay, while limited at first, just like D&D, soon opens up to a treasure trove of options for each class, and if you don't like the way you've built it, you're given the freedom to respec at any time for some gold. And, just like in the tabletop game, the way that things interact can provide infinite ways to approach fights. Toss a bottle of grease on the ground, and it'll make enemies move slower, but also have a chance of tripping. If they're still on the grease when your wizard's turn rolls around, light that area up with a firebolt, and you'll do far more damage to more enemies than if you had just cast it at one enemy. Near a cliff? Make an athletics check to yeet the enemy right off. Just don't expect to glean any rewards from it, they don't drop shit on the ground as they die. Your reward is not fighting that guy. Having a hard time with a horde of enemies? Nothing says you can't get on the rafters above them to make it harder for them to hit you and force them to chase you up there.
I'm too fast, that's a fact. I'll take them by surprise. I'm a coward in disguise. I bring death to these guys.
So, what's our story? A group of alien-esque creatures, Illithid, are kidnapping citizens of the Sword's Coast and have implanted you and your comrades with brain-wriggling parasites designed to control you before eventually becoming Illithid yourself, but through some mysterious force, all of you are able to resist the control. Now you're on a journey to rid yourself of these parasites, but at every turn, it becomes more and more obvious that there is definitely something more going on. Specific people are being taken, people in power, and have formed some sort of cult worshipping a being known as the Absolute. What is the Absolute? Can it be stopped? Should you just give in? Who's the mysterious visitor in your dreams? It's all up to you to pursue the knowledge you seek, and who you meet along the way to ally yourself with. But actions will elicit different reactions from your party members, so choose your words wisely or else they may abandon you. You'll find yourself in the countryside, a long journey away from the city, with a few local villages nearby. You'll be able to then travel to the Shadow-Cursed lands, where you'll have to avoid a dark curse that turns the living into monstrous shadow beasts, and finally into the city of Baldur's Gate itself, a center of trade and bustling metropolis where many storylines converge. Along the way, by helping out people, you'll make allies that may come to your aid in a time of need. I think the most important thing I can say for this game is don't rush it. It's a long game, but taking your time to experience each side story gives you so much more appreciation for both your companions and the world itself. There's hidden lore around every corner, so reading everything you come across will provide you with an engrossing narrative that you won't want to put down. It uses the setting well, and you'll come across many familiar monsters if you're well versed in D&D's history. The presentation is very well done here. While I wouldn't say the game is the prettiest experience I've ever seen, you can very clearly tell the environments and major characters were built with a lot of love and care, and with a decent chunk of work, my original character did not feel out of place amongst my party visually. However, the humanoid NPCs you can definitely tell are made with the in-game character creator, but it doesn't break the immersion. The soundtrack feels right at home and is absolutely perfect for what it needed to be. The next time I DM, I might just steal some of this music. If any one game other than maybe Resi 4 needed an atmospheric soundtrack, it's this one, and the orchestral work is beautiful. Outside of Raphael's boss theme, a few other tracks do squirm in my head frequently, just like a Mind Flayer tadpole. Namely, I Want to Live, which is the camp theme and is currently playing in the background. It invokes a hopeful yet ominous feeling. Camp is safe, and your companions have your back, but there's always danger that awaits on your mind. Song of Balduran, which plays when you camp in the Elf Song Tavern in Act 3, is a ballad about the lore of a major character, as well as the current events of the story. It gives me chills. And the voice acting, oh, the voice cast is fucking perfect. Every last person in the main cast gives a breakout performance. Astarion, Gale, Minsk, Shadowheart, and Karlach's VAs are my favorite amongst the party, but as far as NPCs go, Raphael, Auntie Ethel, Alfira, and especially Ketheric Thorm, who is voiced by the legendary J.K. Simmons, give stellar performances as well. But the entire cast deserve awards for their performances. There were a few hiccups in my playthrough, in particular, a fight in Act 3 that is bugged and actually crashed the game for me. It's in a 3-story building, and when you start a fight on the top floor without taking care of a certain NPC, he will have a difficult time deciding what to do, taking up to 5 minutes of doing nothing before it either skips his turn or crashes the game. Screw you, Avery! I will note that I also got unlucky with some critical dice rolls, and it's here where I'm going to make a quick side note. Eventually, due to my unlucky rolls, I did switch my difficulty down. And I also took advantage of the ability to save scum so I could see more outcomes of dialogue. Some people will tell you this is the wrong way to play, but it's your game, do what you want with it. I don't have time to play another 100 plus hours to save my favorite NPC because she rolled a nat 1 on her final death save, and I paid $70 for this game. I'm going to play it the way I want. This is where it takes advantage of being a video game. And if you think that's not the right way to play and what happens happens, that's great. You don't have to use the tool, but it's there for people who do. Baldur's Gate 3 deserves all its praise and more. It's not perfect, but it is an intensely special experience that was clearly built with lots of love by a passionate development studio, and is one of the best games I've ever had the pleasure to play. The characters alone would have made it an 8 out of 10, but the faithful translation of D&D's mechanics, preserving the good while smoothing out some of the more questionable or unliked mechanics with quality of life improvements, the beautiful world and the amazing glue that somehow keeps it together, the wealth of side quests and charming character interactions make this game a game that time won't forget. Story's a 10, side content's a 10, sound design's a 10, replayability takes a 9 since there's so many alternate ways that each situation can go that you could play it hundreds of times and have completely different side stories each time, though the time commitment robs it of a full 10. Graphics are an 8, it looks good but does have a few hiccups. Level design is a 9, almost every battle map is interesting or creates a cinematic atmosphere and is well designed, though there are some weird parts of the main overworld. Gameplay is a 9, it's faithful without bringing in the worst aspects, though I will admit there were some options from D&D missing that I would have liked to see, such as the Artificer class, and some particularly beloved spells that got left out, but overall the gameplay just flows together very well. Baldur's Gate 3 takes home 65 out of 70. I romanced Shadowheart, by the way. Something about her just clicked from the moment I met her, and when the time came for an important choice, I urged her to stray from the path of the Dark Justiciar, and then to rescue her parents later. She's strong, I knew she could handle the pettiness of Shar. Friendship ended with Resident Evil 4 Merchant, now Shadowheart is my best friend. And this time with benefits.
I have waited long to tell you these words. It is over. For now. Thou played thy part in weaving the fabric of fate itself, but for every thread you sewed, so did the gods unravel another. Sleep, rest, revel, but be ready, for thou mayst yet be needed. Until we meet again, I wish thee every possible fortune, health, wealth, love, and above all, problems worth solving. To you.
Who doesn't love music? With a medium so diverse, there's always going to be something you're going to love, and everyone's taste in their favorite tells a story about them and is incredibly unique. What is my Spotify mix of video game OSTs, late 2000s and early 2010s pop, parody songs, pirate metal, anime OP covers, and whatever the hell Vinesauce Joel produces say about me? Hell if I know. But I do know that listening to more music as I've aged has improved my sense of rhythm. I ain't no Swampy from Love Handle anymore, I got the rhythm. Even though I know jack shit about how to play or write music. As a natural result, I've been getting more into rhythm games in the past few years. That said, simply pressing a button to the beat itself isn't engaging enough to warrant a spot this high on the list. It's gotta have something more. Something to add stakes, get your blood pumping. Say, fusing the genre with a character action game like Bayonetta or Devil May Cry. Look, all I'm saying is that when you mix the power of rock and roll with a cyborg protagonist voiced by the legendary Robbie Daymond, and one of the first bosses has a Nine Inch Nails song as their theme, you go in, yes you do. Hi-Fi Rush is a loving tribute to the power that rock and roll inspires in us. Set in a world claimed by a massive corporate conglomerate with evil plans, our main man Chai has to go full anti-establishment, working with a group of colorful characters to bust down the doors and make the bastards pay for what they're doing to the world. One problem. Through a little mix-up, Chai kinda got his music player grafted into his body, and now he sees the whole world moving to the beat of the music. Which is awesome! Even his footsteps are on the beat as the environment bobs up and down. With a magnetic arm and now on the run from the Vandalay security force, Chai forms a literal battle axe, and the hack and slash gameplay begins. but you're not going to do so good without a sense of rhythm. You get rewarded for spacing your attacks on the beat, and eventually you will have to do so to win, as there are enemies that cannot be defeated without perfectly matching their rhythm. And by attacking on the beat, either in 1 or 2 beat button presses, you open a myriad of different flashy combo routes to help you not just win, but style on the enemies. Pulling off a battle without dropping your combo is just the most satisfying thing I've talked about so far, especially when you throw in the ingenious parry system, performed by matching a beat against specific enemies. I'm a sucker for parries, and every time I kill one of the samurais, I just love it. The heads of the company are the bosses you'll take on. Head of production, Rekka, is a love letter to pro wrestling and fighting games. Zanzo, head of research, is a walking JoJo homage. Mimosa is a fashionista and head of marketing because of course she is. Roquefort, head of finance, is more than meets the eye, and his boss theme is a rocking remix of Beethoven's Fifth. And then there's Corsica, head of security and certified high-quality waifu.
Corsica here. Well, we do have more pressing matters. Might there be anyone here who knows how to fix the coffee machine? It's only giving out decaf, and with this amount of documentation I need to get through... What? Firmware? Why does the coffee machine need a firmware?
Oh my. Even while talking about something as benign as that, with that voice, be still my beating heart. Yeah, I'm a Corsica simp, I have no shame. But hey, let's talk about presentation because this game has it in spades. While I've seen a bit of criticism for it, I am a huge fan of the cel-shaded comic book aesthetic. I think it helps it continue to stand apart from its hack-and-slash contemporaries by keeping it lighthearted and colorful, and without it, the environment bobbing up and down to the beat, an essential visual element for keeping your rhythm on point, would be a lot less helpful. And speaking of rhythm, this soundtrack is phenomenal. Primarily being rock music, there's a healthy mix of original tracks, which in and of themselves sound great, my personal favorites being Heatwave, The Rush, and Negotiation, and a number of licensed songs, both the original tracks and covers if those would be needing to function better with the gameplay, including music from The Flaming Lips, the aforementioned 9 Inch Nails, and someone I discovered through this game, Number Girl. But if you are planning on streaming the game, it features a streamer-safe, copyright-free soundtrack as well to replace the licensed music. The blending of two genres without great care can create a monstrosity of a game that feels awful to play no matter how much passion is put into it. Tango Gameworks did not fall into this pit trap, instead carefully considering the strengths of both genres and how they may conflict with each other, and created something both wholly unique and an absolute blast to play. While my rhythm is far from perfect, I'll never pull off an absolutely flawless run of this game. The rush I get from playing this fuels me to great heights. There's also, for those who just can't get enough of the gameplay, a healthy dose of side content to sink your teeth into. A tradition in hack-and-slash masterpieces, this game has its own incarnation of DMC's Bloody Tower mode, Rhythm Tower, as well as optional objectives during some levels, and even a post-game set of challenges through revisiting each stage for those who want to master the combat, even offering a secret alternate ending for beating them all. And there's even a healthy amount of alternate outfits for our heroes that can be purchased with in-game currency to offer some customization, a completely cosmetic and unnecessary but still welcome addition. The story may be a bit simple, but the writing and the especially stellar voice work of the cast, elevating that writing is what makes it great. That's what lands it at a score of 10. The graphics are netting a 10, simplistic though they are, it is exactly perfect for this game's identity. The sound design, the most important aspect, is a 10, an excellent soundtrack combined with a satisfying hit sound for every perfectly timed attack. Brilliant. The gameplay is a 10. I already loved both of these genres, and this Frankenstein marriage of the two delivered something wholly unique. Replayability is an 8.5, it's a relatively short game with a gameplay loop that is just perfect for hopping in and doing a level, and I can't wait to dive in again in the future. Side content is a 9 with a healthy dose of optional challenges, all revolving around the supremely satisfying combat. Level design is an 8, I never found myself getting lost, and platforming was smooth and didn't take anything away from the fundamentals of the game. Movement is just as much a part of the game as the combat, and it nails it most of the time. This rockin' adventure takes home the bronze with 65.5 out of 70. Before we move on to the next entry, I have a little message for Microsoft. What the fuck were you thinking shutting down Tango Gameworks right after putting out this masterpiece? It was shadow dropped, critically acclaimed, made tons of money, and people are already begging for a sequel, myself included, and you respond to this stint of success by laying off the entire studio who made this wonderful passion project that brought you this much prosperity? I want everyone to play this game, but you're making it hard to want to support you. There's yet another reason I'm committed to every other system under the sun outside of Xbox. Shame on you. But hey, at least as of literally the day before I recorded this, somebody decided to purchase Tango Gameworks and intends on keeping the IP alive. We are so back. Shockingly, for those who are not familiar with my channel, you could say I'm a bit of a Smash fan, considering I've mentioned it in almost every single video I've done in some capacity. The combination of platforming and fighting action is a blast, and it's a lot more approachable to start playing than a traditional fighter. That said, I've grown past the point where I didn't want to touch a platform fighter if it wasn't Smash. While Ultimate is still my favorite plat fighter out there due to the stellar cast, plenty of other games have entered that offer alternate takes on this mishmash of gameplay styles. Rivals of Aether, Multiverses, Framemakers, Rushdown Revolt, and then there's some promising looking upcoming titles like Combo Devils, and I'm looking to check out Samurai Gun 2 as well. But out of the ones I've played, only one has stood head and shoulders above the rest to truly tussle with Ultimate for the title of my favorite platform fighter, and it's probably not the one you expected. For as much shit as I gave Game Mill, not everything they publish is trash, only 9/10 of it. In all seriousness, the first Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl was an alright start. The fundamentals and momentum of the game were fun, it's just everything else that was questionable. The game somehow managed to look like the awkward middle child between PS3 and PS4 graphics, with relatively ugly looking character models for much of the cast, the movesets were uninspired on most of them, and at launch there were no items, no voice acting for the playable characters, and the non-multiplayer modes were lacking. While the voice acting and items were added post-launch, along with a decent run of DLC characters, the game ended up being really divisive amongst Platfighter fans, both in regards to the aforementioned issues and in the roster choices. While most picks were received relatively well, the lack of having all four Ninja Turtles together, the questionable choice to choose the widely memed Hugh Neutron before his son, the main character of the show, as well as the heavy bias to 90s Nicktoons left many unsatisfied, though I maintain that the core gameplay was pretty good. Then the devs came back a few years later swinging. The game looks better, voice acting and rollback netcode from launch, and to top it off, 4 top requested characters in the launch trailer. As information came out over the months leading up to release, it did end up leaking the roster a bit early, and the lineup turned out to be divisive yet again. 11 veterans didn't return, the Turtles were still split, and we lost 2 shows' entire representation in the transition. But despite this, I'm gonna play devil's advocate, they rebuilt the entire game from scratch, including massive overhauls to character movesets, and they really delivered on quality over quantity. The returning veterans are more fun than ever, and the newcomers were overall a really solid lineup. Plankton is an homage to fighting game heavyweights, including Jack's Cossack kicks from Tekken, Terry's Burn Knuckle from KOF and Smash, and even Potemkin Buster from Guilty Gear. Azula provided a fast rushdown fighter with a lot of great tools for mobility and killing, but she's a huge glass cannon. Gerald, the one I was most on the fence about, turned out to be a really fun, unconventional zoner with a lot of tools to rack up damage, but he struggles a bit with killing. Not so much Gertie, who they gave a Shoryuken, Faust's item play, again from Guilty Gear, and the iconic Falcon knee. Ember is their Cloud homage, the Angry Beavers act similarly to Pyra and Mithra, but with their special moves being MVC-esque assist attacks, including references to some famous fighting game moves from Dragon Ball FighterZ and Marvel vs. Capcom 3, and with the ability to switch between them at any time, including while they are assisting, it leads to a hugely hyped character to watch. Jimmy finally gets to appear, and fittingly takes a big brain to play, especially with his puppet character, Goddard, who has a great edgeguard potential. Squidward is this unconventional character with jump cancels and a time-limited install, that's just him getting mad. And then there's my favorite, El Tigre, feeling similar to Project M Wolf with just a hint of MVC Wolverine. He is by far my favorite character to play and watch, not just because I love how he plays either. We got new El Tigre content in the year of our Lord 2023, and that is just wild. For a show that Nick treated so poorly, these devs treated it with so much love. All in all, despite some weird decisions, I think the lineup is much more balanced here. There's still plenty of 90s and 80s love, a nice spread up for the early 2000s, and the more modern characters they brought back were the superior options. The game itself looks so much nicer with a new coat of paint, and in addition to redesigning characters, even a hefty chunk of the returning stages might as well be new due to new layouts. And for those who prefer the old ones, a lot of them returned, as several stages offer multiple different layouts. There's ones for casual free-for-alls, or the sweatiest competitive matches, something to please everyone. The presentation is amplified once again by a stellar soundtrack. I know people wanted remixes of songs from the shows themselves last time, but I'ma be real, these theme songs might not have made that great a stage theme. Many of them are very short, and they'd get old quick. So instead, each track in both games takes heavy inspiration from the music of their show, and creates something new with it, which I personally love. I can't say I prefer one soundtrack over the other, though I will admit, I wish the Ghost Zone theme from the first game had returned, because it really rocked. Same with Rocco's stage, actually. They also gave each character a set of distinct costumes that all pull from the character's source material. There are quite a few obscure references in there. One costume per character is required to be purchased as DLC, and there were 2 pre-order bonus costumes that can't be gotten anymore, but I appreciate the fact that you can have much more visual clarity in matches now, another big complaint from the first. There's also a ton of side content to sink your teeth into as well, as in addition to your standard classic mode, there's multiple different minigames and a full-fledged story ladder with roguelike elements, fully voice-acted, with interaction between characters that includes platforming stages, horde battles, and a decent collection of fun bosses to fight. And the devs are committed to keeping the experience fresh, as they just recently added in their take on All-Star mode, which admittedly at the moment I do think is a little too hard as I'm writing this script, but I appreciate the effort. They even added in Squad Strike from Smash Ultimate as a mode, one that is fully functional online no less. There's a solid training mode, and even a boss rush mode as well, not to mention plenty of cosmetic rewards to earn, including trophies and ways to customize your player card for online mode. But honestly, the reason that I think this game is so great is that alongside the more cohesive, complete character movesets, they created my favorite mechanic in a platform fighter, the slime meter. This handy little meter located under your character portrait has near limitless uses for carving out your own style of play with your character. By holding the assigned button down while performing specific actions, you'll get a wealth of different results. You can enhance or change the properties of your character's moves, like EX specials in traditional fighters, deal extra damage when inputting strong attacks, increase the length of your air dashes and make it where you can fully perform any action out of them, make your shield temporarily unbreakable, halt your momentum entirely and counterattack at the same time to potentially save your stock, even Roman cancel your attacks like Guilty Gear to create custom combos that wouldn't work naturally. Or, if you feel like you can pull it off, spend a full meter for a competitively legal super attack. With the limitless application of these tools, it creates an entirely different beast of competitive gameplay, and can simultaneously be almost completely ignored for casual. It manages to find a really solid middle ground between both worlds of platform fighter fans. Sure, there are some aspects of the game I could nitpick, such as some of the costumes being a little simplistic, or the fact that literally every character I made in the first game got cut, or some of the supers having some wonky animation. There's some occasional glitches, some of the VAs are starting to give a much weaker performance as they age, but all in all, the game is an extremely fun one that evolves its genre and innovates while not replacing my love for the games that inspired it. It's not trying too hard to be Melee, it's doing its own thing and thriving. Ludosity and Fairplay Labs made something really special, and you are all sleeping on it because you got burned by the first game. I get it. But everyone deserves a second chance, and in this case, second place for NASB 2. Though it doesn't factor into my ranking, the DLC offerings have actually been really fun, even if I'm a bit iffy on the character choices themselves. Mr. Krabs has an interesting level up system by gaining money, Zuko's just a great pick all around, and even the most recent character at the time of writing, Rocksteady, turns out to be really fun with a shockingly creative moveset, even if I would prefer just having the 4 turtles together. Iroh will also likely be a blast, though maybe we overdid it a bit on the firebenders. That said, I'd really love to get more DLC, so please support this game. Who would I pick for DLC? Well, that's a good question. I would at least want a couple newcomers. I think Carl Wheezer would be a really funny pick. Timmy Turner would be cool, even though there's some legal hiccups possibly preventing him from happening. But I'd also be just as satisfied with some revamped vets from the first game. Like a 5-character pack consisting of CatDog and Oblina, who had their shows removed from the lineup, and the latter of which was a very cool obscure pick. Toph to have a rep for all 4 nations, and because she's my favorite Avatar character. My main, Powdered Toast Man, who had my favorite moveset in the original game, and was just such a funny pick. And then either Sandy to round out the SpongeBob cast, or bring back the people's pick Hugh. I still think he should have come after Jimmy, but he was fun and now we have the latter, so I'd be fine with him coming back. Oh, and for who I main, El Tigre and Ember are my most played, though I dabble with Lucy. Zuko's a more recent favorite, and Azula has been a top fighter for me, but I also think Reptar might be my other favorite than El Tigre. They made a competitively viable heavyweight who isn't overpowered, and who doesn't want to play as a kaiju in a platform fighter. He's just so much fun. So let's give it a score. Gameplay is an easy 10. It innovates its genre by remixing the greatest aspects of it, not just its inspiration, but other greats in its field. The graphics are actually pretty good looking. The visual overhaul manages to make it look at least on par with the PS4 generation of graphics for cartoony titles, and it hides its weaker animations much better than the first game. It earns a solid 9. The sound design is a 9 as well, mostly because I kinda wish a few more songs from the first game that were bangers return, and it does frequently have some mild audio bugs, but the music and voice acting, outside of Aang, is really well done. The level design takes a 10. Unlike the first game, there aren't any stage layouts I straight up hate, and there are fun layouts for both casual and competitive. Side content takes a 10. There's plenty of single player content to dive into when you want to keep playing, but don't feel like fighting your friends or grinding competitive. Replayability is a 10, though that's only natural for a well-designed platform fighter. The story is really the only aspect I would call a bit subpar, and not for lack of trying, but it is a bunch of cartoon characters trying to defeat the big bad evil guy, in this case Vlad Plasmius, from destroying the world. It's a simple premise. But the character interactions are more than worth giving at least a 7.5. Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2 takes home the silver with 65.5 out of 70. And you don't have to just take my word for it. I wanted to hear from someone else who loves this game like I do, so I reached out to Cherry, a community lead and tournament organizer for this game, for an interview. I have a separate video going up for that in a couple days, that's the full interview, but for now, I'll just leave a few highlights here for you to enjoy. So, in a comparison between the first NASB and the second, which one do you think is the better game and why?
So, it's definitely a complicated question, but I think that I've narrowed it down to this, and I think that NASB 1 is really fluid. I think that overall, it's movement in it is super solid. It's more accessible due to it being a digital input game. It has a really high speed gameplay where there's not really too much camping. There's really never there can be timeouts, but it's really not common at all. I've seen it a couple times here or there. And NASB 2, it's more familiar on the surface, but as you play it more and more, it can get deeper and deeper. And I think that NASB 2 has more interesting characters compared to NASB 1, even if I don't necessarily think that NASB 1 had uninteresting characters. I just think that, to me, NASB 2 has far more interesting characters, and as a game as a whole, NASB 2 is just amazing. It just has so much single player content. The campaign is actually good. That was the first thing I did when I got my copy. I literally played through the whole campaign before doing anything else. I did that. It has Squad Strike with playable online, which is literally the coolest thing I've been asking for in a platform fighter. like since NES 1, and I've asked and asked and asked. I'm like, it's such a slam dunk. Please do it. It has crossplay, the best rollback in any platform fighter. It has so many modes, like really fun characters, and it's not like hurting my hands. And that's something that NES 1 unfortunately really hurt, was by the input per minute in the APM, just the amount of stuff you need to be able to do.
Right.
Really hurt my hands, so I can't play it too much anymore. And it's kind of always been like a lasting thing with me now, is I really can't play platform fighters in general because of NES 1. Due to the amount of time I put into that game, and playing it as much as I did, I definitely did a number on my body. But NES 2 definitely.
So, here's another question, character-wise. Off the top of your head, would you say are the 3 most hype characters to watch in NASB competitive play, in NASB 2 specifically, and why?
So, definitely going to start off with the Beavers. I think that's why I play them. I find them really exciting. They both are really fun to play as, but also to watch. And I think with the amount of different supers or EXs they have, like with their each special, you know, and the applications you can use them for, and being able to like swap where your location is based on the other, like it just causes so much interesting gameplay. And like their movesets being different, and one being for like combos and the other being for kills, like it's just so interesting, you know. So I find them really interesting for those aspects alone. I find Grandma Gertie, as crazy good as she is, to be very exciting to watch, just because she's just so like fast. You know, she's another fast character. I enjoy that fast octane gameplay. You don't see her too much at the top level. You see Stango, you see D-Gen, you know, two players that are very good with the character, but like she's just so crazy fast and like hilarious. She reminds me of like a NAS 1-esque character, just with how much she can do and how fast she can do it. But she's another one to where I'm like, I like this character a lot. And the last one's hard because there are other characters I appreciate a lot, and there's definitely ones where it's like, it's hard to say. I want to say like, oh, the people are gonna hate me for this one. I think Jimmy is like probably my number 3. Like he's so good. He's a very good character, but the amount of things, again, like when you give like characters more stuff that they can do with like Goddard being Jimmy's thing, and the way he can connect his combos, you know, between the two or his projectiles, the way they interact, like stuff like that's so interesting to me. So like those aspects, and just like the ways you can play with Jimmy and the way he uses Slime Dash like at the top level, it's just so interesting compared to a lot of the characters in this game. But if I had to, like, if I was somehow allowed a 4th, my honorable mention has to be Nigel. Like he's so different, and he's who doesn't like comboing into rest, you know? Like who doesn't like seeing stuff like that? It's so funny.
Right. What do you have to say to people who think that the game is dead just because the Steam charts show a small player base?
I have 2 responses. One, I don't care if it's dead. Like I'll play it if there's 6 people that play. I've hosted brackets for NASB 1 throughout its lifespan that had 6 people. I'm not gonna stop doing that anytime soon. And the other flip end of it is that this game had 22,000 people on it and was in the 19th spot of the top 40 Xbox games played this month. And Multiverses last month, if we're going to compare anything, was 48 the month before, and it is not in the top 40 of the documented things. Not to compare them, because I do like Multiverses as well. I think it's very fun, catchy, you know. But
Different beasts.
Yes, absolutely.
I have defeated you for all time!
Before we move on to crown the King of 2023, my absolute favorite game, I wanted to quickly give a spotlight to some games that I really wanted to play before making this, but if I had, the video wouldn't be out until 2025. If you're wondering where one of your favorites ended up, it might be here. If I've made one thing pretty obvious about myself, it's that I love cartoony games with fun platforming. But I've realized that over time, my taste in platforming has become a lot more complex and refined. It's not enough to have good level design for me anymore. The movement, the momentum, it needs to be fine-tuned, carefully crafted to provide a maximum enjoyment. Movement and abilities and power-ups need to flow together to make each level into a thrill ride. It's something that, despite his best efforts, our portly Italian friend Mario only manages to pull off in his 3D outings most of the time. Wonder was an exception, not the rule. Then there's the speed. Finding the perfect speed for your platformer is just as important as creating a level for your hero to run around in. And it's unfortunate that the master of speed, the Blue Blur himself, oftentimes manages to bring the speed, but not the level design to accommodate him properly. I would argue that outside of Sonic Mania, there hasn't really been a good 2D Sonic since, well, the 90s. Where Mario has the level design and Sonic has the thrill, there's never been a platformer that's captured my fancy with the perfect middle ground. Wait, Italian, speed, the 90s. Oh my god, that's it! I don't need to mix them together into some fine dining experience. Take a solid base like the level design from the Marioverse, sprinkle in a nice topping of speed lifted from Sonic, and bake that shit in an oven at precisely the 1990s of degrees until it looks like a Microsoft Paint bootleg Ren and Stimpy, and you get greasy, perfect platforming action. Yes, my favorite game of 2023, and in fact one of my top 5 favorite games of all time, is in fact the indie darling Pizza Tower. Envisioned initially as, well, if Nintendo won't give us more Wario Land, I'll make it myself, and then later ingeniously given a dose of classic Sonic level design and the speed to make use of it, and just for good measure, giving its protagonist Samus's Shine Spark for verticality challenges, this game scratches my platforming itch in spades, with by far my favorite level design and movement mechanics in a platformer. Each level is so meticulously crafted to take full advantage of Peppino's kit. So what can our struggling restaurant owner do? Well, like Wario in his classic adventures, the character upon which he drew most visual inspiration, Peppino is effectively immortal during normal gameplay. Enemies and hazards can hit him, but he doesn't have a health bar to drop to 0, rather affecting your combo score. More on that later. Peppino also has the ability to move at incredible speeds after building up momentum by running in a single direction for a while. When moving at his highest speed, he'll plow through most enemies, instantly defeating them. But if you're not at top speed, you're far from defenseless. Peppino can grab most enemies and throw them, utilizing a number of wrestling moves, and the enemies thrown can defeat other enemies. And if you've got a projectile flying your way and don't think you can stop it in time in order to jump over or slide under it, Peppino's taunt button doubles as a parry. God, I love parries. With perfectly timed precision, you'll send that projectile right back. And it doesn't just work on projectiles, you can do it with melee attacks too. And better yet, you can perform it while doing almost any other action, canceling that action's animation to perform it. The kit flows together so naturally, which is amplified further by the stellar level design. Enemies are placed in just the right places, so that, should you know they're coming, you'll be able to seamlessly transition from one action to the next while maintaining your momentum. That said, Peppino does lose access to his normal kit when entering into his transformation states. Power-ups that are usually unique to their stage, themed after the environment in which the stage takes place. The castle level has you becoming a knight that slips down slopes and gives you Link's down air thrust in the air. The space level has Peppino riding a rocket ship that allows him to fly and destroy massive meteors. One of the transformations is just letting the man blow off some steam with his Second Amendment rights, against animatronic monsters inspired by FNAF no less. Hate FNAF? Or just want to feel the power fantasy of blowing those fuckers away after all the helplessness in those games? We've got the level for you. One of the power-ups is literally the mascot of an extremely forgettable mascot platformer from the PS1, Mort the Chicken, that the devs just asked the creator if they could use, and he said yes. In each level, there are multiple types of collectibles. The primary ones are toppins, little sentient pizza toppings trapped in cages that will follow Peppino after being rescued. Then there are just regular toppings, I guess, that just give you points. Lastly, you'll have to search for Jerome, the pizza tower itself's janitor, and bring him back to his break room, where a treasure is located. You're scored at the end of each level based on how fast you did, what you collected, and your combo meter. The combo meter applies a bonus amount of points to each collectible you grab during a combo, and you can keep it going by collecting things and defeating enemies without letting the meter reach the end. Each item collected or enemy hit resets it. At the end of each level, you'll find a pillar. Destroy it, and you'll begin the best part of the level, pizza time. After destroying the pillar, the level you're in will begin to crumble. That means it's time to book it back to the entrance as quick as possible. But you better be collecting shit on your way back. Some things won't be available until pizza time has started, so grab what you need and go. You'll notice you now have a big timer on the bottom of your screen. If you let it reach 0, you won't lose immediately, but the main antagonist, Pizza Face, will appear and begin to chase you, phasing through walls to take the quickest possible path to get you. And this is the only way you can die in the game. Get caught and you're booted out of the level and need to start over again. But it's at this part where the game is at its most exhilarating. Use that Mach speed to your advantage and get out. But for the most daring, once you've beaten a level, or unlocked it by beating fast in the tutorial, you'll see a little portal near the exit. A portal that says, Lap 2. If the first escape is running away from the devil, Lap 2 is saying, wanna see me do it again? You can't catch me. And it's through doing Lap 2 that you'll be able to achieve the highest ranks on stages, which don't provide any tangible reward, just a sense of self-fulfillment and maybe some bragging rights. First, there's S rank, which is gained from completing the level with every toppin, the treasure, getting enough points, finding every secret area, and doing Lap 2. But even more coveted is P rank. P for pizza, I presume, which is S rank, but without dropping your combo even once. From the first enemy you kill, you must know the level like the back of your hand and be able to do it without screwing up. It's tough, but the feeling of earning it is like nothing I've ever felt in a game. I may not have a huge amount of them, but I plan on earning them all, someday. It's this aspect that grants Pizza Tower such a surprisingly simple hook. It encourages learning to speedrun these levels, leading to infinite replayability. But the game mechanics aren't the only things that make this brilliant game. There's also the presentation. Okay, yeah, this game definitely looks the part of a 90s Nicktoon, with a huge amount of pizza ingredients and related imagery, but that crude aesthetic is what makes it so endearing. It's meant to be kinda ugly, and yet I think it's one of the best looking games because of it. And because each level has a different theme, we get to see a lot of unique scenery. A farm, a huge metropolitan area inhabited purely by pigs, an enchanted forest of gnomes, a saloon, and that's just a handful of the options. The sprite work is really impressive, especially when you realize that just the playable character himself has over 5,000 sprites, and yet the movement is so fluid despite it. Combined with these levels' aesthetics, there's also a phenomenal soundtrack heavily inspired by the 16 and 32-bit eras of gaming music. There's even a level that just rocks that Genesis twang, and the artist managed to take some truly weird samples and turn them from being obscure media into something iconic. This has the best soundtrack all year, hands down. Special mentions are in order for the songs Oregano Mirage, Yeehaw Delivery Boy, Tropical Crust, Extraterrestrial Wah-Wahs, Pumpin' Hot Stuff, Tubular Trash Zone, Unexpectancy, and of course both the escape themes, It's Pizza Time, and The Death That I Deserve Aioli, which has just the best name. And for eagle-eared viewers, you'll know that at least one of those themes is in every single one of my videos as my outro. Bonus points to you if you can tell me which one it is in the comments below. While I initially wasn't too terribly fond of the boss design, I grew to really appreciate it when I separated my brain from the rest of the game. Being fast isn't going to win boss fights. It's all about dodging at the right time, or if you've got the guts to do it, parry instead. Each boss is pretty simple, but they're all fun to fight, and they take advantage of one of this game's less talked about strengths. It's funny! There's tons of goofy animations for each character in the game, the soundtrack is filled with songs with mimetic names, and a lot of the short cutscenes that act as level transitions are really hilarious, and it all comes down to that art style. The first boss, Pepperman, is a narcissistic artist, so it's great watching him react as you destroy his art. The third boss is a crude parody of the Domino's pizza mascot, the Noid, who openly flips you off in his boss fight, and yet because he was intended to be a playable character, he's just as emotive as Peppino himself. And they added an alternate mode where you can play as him in a free post-launch update, and the dude even has some unique mechanics. The fourth boss I won't spoil, but he's very uncanny while also having some really great animations. All in all, I may be a bit presumptuous here, but for me, Pizza Tower is about as close to a perfect game as I could ask for. The story is simple. Pizza Head threatens to blow up your restaurant just because he doesn't like you. Go take him and his stupid tower with him. But it doesn't need to be complex. This is the one case where I'm more than willing to grant the story a 9.5, despite its simplicity because of the humor of the cutscenes, written dialogue, and animation that sells it. Local man too manic to give up. The graphics are 10. The amount of work done to make this world look this uncanny is impressive. The sound design is a 10. From every satisfying, perfectly timed sound effect to the stellar soundtrack, I couldn't give it anything less. The gameplay takes a 10 for having the most satisfying platforming I've ever experienced in a game. Replayability is a 10. I want to go back through and learn each level perfectly, and the core mechanics are so fun, there's never a point in which I'm not having a blast, even on the 100th trek through a level. Level design is a 10, each one lovingly crafted to utilize Peppino's abilities and the transformations on offer to their maximum potential. The game even actively encourages you with in-game achievement lists that offer cosmetic awards to change up Peppino's looks for you. It's got plenty of side content, which I'm giving a 9.5 to, and they never ask something too crazy from you either. Pizza Tower takes home the highest score I have to offer, 69 out of 70 points.
69? Nice.
Pizza Tower is a rare example of a game that not only exceeds expectations, but also ended up, in my humble opinion, surpassing its inspirations. Yeah, Wario Land and Classic Sonic are great games, but Pizza Tower does both of their gameplay styles better, taking the best of both worlds and mixing them together into something truly special, with none of the aspects that either struggle with. By learning from the mistakes of the past, it charges forward towards a brighter future, and shows the true talent of what independent developers can accomplish. Ironic that in a year both Wario and Sonic got new games, a newcomer showed up and put both of them to shame. That was a lot to take in, I'm sure. From indies to AAA, pixel graphics to 3D breakthroughs, from RPGs to platformers to fighting games and everything in between, 2023 was a hell of a year for my favorite hobby. With a new masterpiece showing up every other week almost, a gamer, realistically speaking, just doesn't have time for them all. I definitely didn't have time for them all during the year, hence why this video ended up so late. But we've crowned the cream of the crop, in my humble opinion. What about you? Anything I missed? Any games you think I should have played before working on this? Let me know in the Wait, why is there still video left? Aren't we done?
The 2023 Game Awards starts now. Welcome to the Game Awards 2023. Now, here's your host, the creator of the Game Awards, Jeff Keighley.
Whoa. What the hell are you doing here, dude? We've heard enough from you already. This is my channel. And besides that, frankly, dude, I think you're unfit for the job. You helped kill E3 and replaced it with Summer Snooze Fest. You have an unhealthy relationship with both Hideo Kojima and the Muppets, sometimes simultaneously. You let someone unauthorized on stage with the Elden Ring devs in 2022, and you had the gall to tell your own Game of the Year 2023 award winner to wrap it up after 30 seconds. Get off the stage. I hate public speaking, and I could do this shit better than you. In fact... Welcome to the Game Awards that actually matter 2023. In 2024. Yeah, we'll talk later, Jeff. You just head backstage. Thank you. We've got a great show for you tonight. We're going to be giving some awards to the actual games and not letting Chris Judge talk for 8 minutes straight. And don't worry, Matthew McConaughey has been sedated and contained. We'll get started with the show right after a word from our sponsor.
Fuck you, Baltimore!
If you're dumb enough to buy a new car this weekend,
You're a big enough schmuck to come to Big Bill Hell's Cars!
bad deal.
Cars that break down!
So, let's go over real quick how I'm going to be giving out these awards. Each category will have a number of nominees, and I'll be awarding a bronze, silver, and gold trophy to 3 of the lucky nominees that succeed overwhelmingly in each category. That said, there will be 3 awards which won't be preceded by nominations. I'll just be giving them their award in their field of excellence. We'll discuss those as we come to them. So, let's get right to it. First up is the most underrated game category. The nominees are Master Detective Archives Raincode, Viewfinder, Bayonetta Origins Cereza and the Lost Demon, Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2, Gravity Circuit, Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name. And the bronze award goes to Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2. Seriously, why do people not want to give this game a try? One look at it shows the vast improvements over the sequel. The silver award goes to Bayonetta Origins! I've literally only heard 2 people online talk about this, and both had great things to say, so why does this literally have no one bringing it up as one of the greats? Lastly, the gold award goes to Master Detective Archives! For being from the company behind the Danganronpa games, I am shocked that I have literally heard no one bring this game up at all. It's a damn shame too, because it's a great game. Next up, we have the Best Soundtrack Award. This goes to the game that gave me the most earworm moments after playing it. Let's celebrate some games with soundtracks filled with banger after banger. The nominees are Pizza Tower, Sea of Stars, Cassette Beasts, Hi-Fi Rush, Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2. Looks like this category is dominated primarily by indie games this year. And the bronze award goes to Hi-Fi Rush. A bit of an upset that the rhythm game soundtrack is only 3rd, but don't let that deter you, this category was fierce. The combination of spectacular original compositions and expertly hand-picked licensed tracks made for an extremely memorable experience. The Silver Award goes to Sea of Stars. One of the best aspects of the game is its soundtrack that plays homage to the works before and after. A few highlights include Hills of Determination, Dance of 1000 Suns, and all versions of the battle theme, Battle On. And the Gold Award goes to... well, I kinda spoiled it earlier, right? It's Pizza Tower. There's not a single track I don't like, and almost every track is peak. Next up, we have the Biggest Surprise Award. Going into the year, I was already familiar with a hefty handful of the games I wanted to play, but despite that, a number of wonderful games came out of the woodwork to rival them for spots here on this list. This award is to celebrate the games that caught me off guard by how great they were. The nominees are Viewfinder, Pikmin 4, Dave the Diver, Master Detective Archives, Raincode, Gravity Circuit, Turbo Overkill. The Bronze Award goes to Master Detective Archives. While the game was on my radar, the minimal marketing it received as a Switch exclusive, plus my mixed opinions on Spike Chunsoft's previous work, led to a narrative I was heavily invested in, though some characters' writing did prevent it from taking silver or gold. The Silver Award goes to Dave the Diver. My hesitancy for roguelikes gave me a bad feeling going into this game, and yet not only did it pleasantly surprise me, it ended up climbing much higher than I would have anticipated, with a charming presentation that kept me invested all the way through. And the Gold Award goes to Viewfinder. If there's a genre I'm even more hesitant on than roguelikes and Metroidvanias, it's puzzle games. And yet, through clever use of such a simple set of mechanics, it created one of the most fun and creative titles I've ever played. Our next award is for the Best in Voice Acting. As an aspiring VA myself, I look for great examples in all the media I consume, so this award is intended to praise the work of those who oft go unappreciated. But unlike those other game awards, we're not celebrating the work of only one for a game. To claim this category, the overall quality of all voice actors in the game must be taken into account. The nominees are Baldur's Gate 3, Slay the Princess, Master Detective Archives, Raincode, Spider-Man 2, Bayonetta Origins, Cereza and the Lost Demon, Hi-Fi Rush. Our Bronze Award goes to Spider-Man 2. While Yuri Lowenthal's performance as Peter Parker, both with and without the symbiote, and Najee Jeter's brilliant take on Miles Morales are the headliners, it cannot be understated how much Laura Bailey's work as MJ, Tony Todd as Venom, and Graham Phillips as Harry all bring their roles together. They'll be etched in the annals of history as some of these characters' most iconic. The Silver Award goes to Baldur's Gate 3. In a bit of an upset, even I was prepared to give this award to the stellar cast of this wonderful game. Highlights include the legendary Neil Newborn as Astarion, Samantha Baird as Karlach, Tim Downey as Gale, Andrew Wincott as Raphael, Amelia Tyler as the narrator, Matthew Mercer as Minsk, and J.K. Simmons as Ketherick Thorm. But every party member and even most NPCs have clearly defined and unique voices that made each encounter in the game special. Finally, the Gold Award goes to Slay the Princess. While not being as star-studded as any of its competition, this award had to go to the two who brought to life this beautiful tale, Jonathan Sims and Nicole Goodnight, as the range of the two of them provide, plus a beautiful chemistry between them both, places them at the top. Just two voices, and yet both of them are doing such brilliant work. We can only hope their talent continues to be recognized, and that they, and all these other brilliant VAs, continue to inspire a new generation to take up the craft. Our next category is the Perfect Length Award, awarded to a game that is neither too short nor overstays its welcome. I find that even some of my favorites tend to drag on or leave me wanting more, such as the case with all but one of my top 5. Our nominees include Pikmin 4, Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name, Gravity Circuit, Super Mario RPG, Viewfinder, Resident Evil 4 Remake. The Bronze Award goes to Pikmin 4. Whether going for a completionist run to collect every treasure and save every castaway, or simply going to beat the main story, Pikmin 4 manages to just avoid staying around too long while keeping its brilliant loop engaging and providing enough variety to keep it fresh for longer. Our Silver Award goes to Resident Evil 4 Remake. The story's pace is natural, and none of the content feels like filler, each chapter lasting for just the right amount of time to keep the story engaging and to keep players wanting to continue. The Gold Award goes to Like a Dragon Gaiden. Managing to pull away from my biggest hang-up with the series, it offers a complete story while managing to provide a healthy, but not overwhelming, taste of the variety these games are known for. And though I personally didn't go for a completionist playthrough, it doesn't demand all of your time like other games in its franchise would from you. Next up is the Best Story Award. This one doesn't really warrant a huge explanation, simply what game offers the best narrative as you play. The nominees are Hogwarts Legacy, Slay the Princess, Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name, Baldur's Gate 3, Resident Evil 4 Remake, Spider-Man 2. First up, the Bronze Award goes to Hogwarts Legacy. The story manages to tell a surprisingly gripping narrative that, at times, exceeds the franchise that inspired it, with a set of characters that offer interesting backstories and manages to build on the lore of its universe in ingenious ways. The Silver Award goes to Like a Dragon Gaiden. As one final send-off to Kiryu as the main protagonist, the story manages to connect brilliantly to the series' complicated character relationships and story while maintaining all the charm of its predecessors, and has a beautiful ending. And the Gold Award goes to Baldur's Gate 3, for being the most I've been invested in the story of an ensemble cast, for managing to use the lore of Dungeons & Dragons Forgotten Realms to its absolute fullest, and to create a cast that may not yet be, but will go down as one of gaming's best and brightest. Next on the agenda is the award for Best Character Design. This award is to celebrate the work of character artists and how they best utilize the medium of games to create iconic and memorable characters. Our nominees include Hi-Fi Rush, Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, Slay the Princess, Master Detective Archives Raincode, Street Fighter 6, Dave the Diver. Our Bronze Award winner is Street Fighter 6. Despite its divisive art style, the character designs for both the newcomers to the cast and the redesigns for many of the returning veterans provide a colorful, iconic cast, despite leaning on nostalgia a little too hard. Highlights include the new designs for Cammy, DJ, Guile, and Jury, as well as all the designs for Kimberly, Jamie, Marissa, and, despite my distaste in fighting him, JP. Our silver winner goes to Hi-Fi Rush, which contains a brilliant blending of a cyberpunk world with a cel-shaded, comic book-inspired art style. Each character of the main cast, both our heroes side with Chai, Peppermint, Macaron, Cinnamon, and the villain side, featuring the top brass of Vandalay, have easily recognizable and incredibly pleasing, vibrant designs. It feels like a blending of American and Japanese design philosophy, and I like it a lot. The gold winner is Slay the Princess, with each design for the princess invoking something completely different, some breathtaking, some beautiful, some horrifying, and it's all made so wonderful thanks to its art style. And while we're talking art style, let's show our nominees for Best Art Style, which definitely features at least a little overlap. The nominees are Super Mario Bros. Wonder, Slay the Princess, Cassette Beasts, Sea of Stars, Pikmin 4, Bayonetta Origins, Cereza and the Lost Demon. Our bronze winner goes to Sea of Stars. Outside of its soundtrack and game mechanics, the beautiful pixel art invokes a style of the familiar and yet all new. I don't think I've seen a game with pixel graphics this beautiful, nor do I think I will ever again. The spiders have mastered their craft to a microscopic degree. Our silver award goes to Bayonetta Origins. with a beautifully crafted watercolor aesthetic that enhances the children's book playing out in real time aesthetic this game went for. Platinum really outdid themselves with the colors and the technical work to make this possible, and it's even more amazing that it looks as good as it does on the Switch. The Gold Award winner is, without a doubt, Slay the Princess. Every single frame was hand-drawn, and that's not an easy task, especially considering the vastly different art styles that the different routes of the game can go down. Even the most subtle difference can change the entire tone of the art, and through the use of only 4 colors, this wonderful title manages to display more visceral emotion than games with a color palette consisting of millions of variations. Next up on the agenda, we have the award for Best Movement Mechanics. Movement is the most critical aspect for many types of games, so ensuring it feels as smooth, responsive, and that each ability manages to fit into the control scheme is crucial, and a personal point of contention for me. If the movement doesn't feel good, there's a high chance I won't enjoy the game. Our nominees are Viewfinder, Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2, Pizza Tower, Turbo Overkill, Bomb Rush Cyberfunk, Spider-Man 2. Our bronze winner is Turbo Overkill, with a surprising scope of mobility despite having only one mobility ability. Using specific level design quirks allowing you to utilize your dash to the fullest, as well as run on walls and even rocket jumping, though none of it is quite as thrilling as zipping around a level with your chainsaw like a psychopathic Tony Hawk. The silver winner is Spider-Man 2. If the first game made you really feel like Spider-Man, this game helps you fit even closer in those lofty shoes. The movement is as fluid and swinging around the city is just as fun as that first game, but now with the added bonus of the web wings, which gives you an exhilarating sense of movement as you soar through the sky, and it controls great. Transitioning between web slinging and flying is buttery smooth. The gold winner is, of course, Pizza Tower, with movement and mechanics so fluid that you feel like a god for even the simplest of actions, but provides so much room for mechanical execution and the ability to style on the game itself. Next, we have the coveted I Want a Sequel Yesterday award, only for those games that left such a strong impact that not only do I want more to continue their story, but also to see what new mechanics they could add on to their already existing mechanics and how they could improve on greatness in a sequel. The nominees are Bayonetta Origins, Cereza and the Lost Demon, Bomb Rush Cyberfunk, Hi-Fi Rush, Master Detective Archives Raincode, Dave the Diver, Cassette Beasts. Our bronze award winner is Bomb Rush Cyberfunk, which was a great starting point even if it did have a number of flaws. Given a more robust combat system, and with perhaps some functional differences between skates, bikes, and skateboards, you've got potential for something that could truly be crazy. The silver award winner is Cassette Beasts. I really would love to see a sequel with a new cast of characters, more monsters, maybe a new type or two, and a new mechanic. Imagine at the end you might just be able to have a match with your character from the first game and a partner, just like facing Red at the end of Gold and Silver all those years ago. Brilliant, as Kaylee would say. Oh, and the one thing I want most? Online battles. That'd turn it from good to gold. The gold award goes to Hi-Fi Rush. A sequel with more playable characters or different weapon options for Chai would make for a very fun game, and it would give a chance to follow up on the rather simple ending. I want more of this world, its characters, and especially more great music. Before we give away my final 2 sets of awards, let's go ahead and cover those special awards. These awards are for 3 categories that aren't exactly coveted. First up, we have the most overrated title, which I bestow upon Cocoon. It's not a bad game by any means, but for winning Best Debut Indie at a certain other awards show that shan't be named, I was left extremely underwhelmed. The core gimmick is interesting for sure, being able to take levels into other levels and solving puzzles like that, but it didn't capture my fancy with an interesting narrative, stunning graphics, great music, fun movement, etc. All it was a series of puzzles that, frankly, for the first 6-ish hours I played, felt way too easy, and I'm already not super great at puzzles in general. It's just not my thing, and I think the praise for it is a little overstated for as simplistic of a game it is, and my biggest gripe is that it's way too expensive for as short and simple as it is. The next award is the title for Most Meh Game. The game that I wanted to like but ended up feeling little to no strong feelings for one way or the other. And that title goes to F-Zero 99. Like with Cocoon, it's far from a bad game, but I'll admit I had higher hopes for the return of a franchise that's basically been dead for 20 years. First off, it's built off the SNES F-Zero, which again isn't bad, but I prefer my racing games to be more smooth. SNES F-Zero's controls are, how do I put this, clicky, kinda jank. The mechanics to this game are pretty well thought out, but I'm also feeling major battle royale fatigue. Like, even in a completely different genre entirely, I'm ready for the industry to move past them. But hey, the game's completely free with Nintendo Switch Online, so I can't complain too hard. I had fun with the game, but it's not a title I'm planning on revisiting anytime soon. All we can hope is that an actual new game comes from it. Lastly of our 3 special awards is the Biggest Disappointment Award, given to the game that I really wanted to like, but failed to meet even my minimal expectations, and this bad boy goes to Disney Speedstorm. I like racing games a lot, and there's a lot that I really dig about Disney Speedstorm. The track design is solid, the graphics look nice, the character designs are stylized in a way that helps them all feel cohesive, the music is a real highlight. But it's all for naught when the entire thing is not only filled with microtransactions, but the most egregious, pay-to-win, gacha-filled slop that I've ever seen. I have my problems with something like Multiverses, but at least there all you have to do is buy the character. In this game, that's not enough. You have to level them up so they can be faster in races, and the amount that it can cost, based on your gacha luck, can be in the literal thousands for a single character. And did I mention that without grinding in games where you have an objective disadvantage, a single character can cost you up to $40? Fuck that. I could complain about the amount of money for basic recolors in Street Fighter 6 all day, but this takes corporate greed to a whole new level. And because it's Disney characters, some of the most iconic of all time, of course kids are going to want to play it. This aggressive monetization should be illegal. Shame on you, Disney. With a price point like that, I'm shocked Sora only costs $6 in Smash. I know, I already bitched about it earlier, but this is sickening and sets a bad precedent for live service games in the future. When will they learn that Fortnite rakes in all that dough because it's so approachable and all of their cosmetics offer no functional advantage to players? Just make a fun game, assholes. Worry about the money later.
Hey, take a chill pill. Those grow on trees here.
Now that we've got the negativity out of the way, let's give out our award for Best Level Design. This is for the game that utilizes its mechanics to the fullest in each level, that has environments built to take advantage of everything your character can do. The nominees include Gravity Circuit, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, Viewfinder, The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom, Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2, Pizza Tower. The bronze winner here is Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2. A vast step up in stage design from the first, even most of the casual stages offer fun layouts that keep intrusive elements to a minimum, and with each competitive stage having multiple variant options, it manages to find a comfortable middle ground where both types of players can enjoy. The Silver Award winner goes to Viewfinder. With levels brilliantly designed around the core mechanics despite the insane physics keeping things held together behind the scenes, and brilliant use of field of view to create interesting and challenging puzzles, the environments in Viewfinder always find a way to surprise me as I figure out the answer. And the gold winner is, of course, Pizza Tower, with levels that are built with Peppino's kit in mind to promote the use of speed and flawless precision, and the promise of a high rank is a reward in and of themselves to keep pushing ahead and perfecting your skills. Our final award of the evening is the one I'm most excited to crown. With a whopping 9 nominees, this is for the best boss of the year. Those charismatic and exciting roadblocks that stand in your way that you have to beat down. But this, of course, comes with a disclaimer. These will provide spoilers for each game that has a nominee, but that's kinda what you signed up for, right? I'll put a timestamp on screen for you to skip past this award if you really want to. Here are the nominees. Raphael from Baldur's Gate 3.
If you have any last words, make it quick. It will only take a moment to finish you. Hope. It always burns you in the end, little mouse. Now, down comes the claw.
Corsica from Hi-Fi Rush.
Enough!
The Noise from Pizza Tower. Ancient Sirehound from Pikmin 4. Peter Parker from Spider-Man 2.
I need this suit. It makes me a better Spider-Man. You just want it for yourself.
Marie from Persona 5 Tactica.
Same spineless dolt as ever. Simply too weak to do anything on his own. That's what makes me his perfect partner. All right, Toshio. Hope you're ready. 'Cause here comes the bride!
Shishido from Like a Dragon Gaiden, the man who erased his name. Ianthe from Cassette Beasts. Colgera from The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. There are some truly fearsome competitors in this lineup, but who does it best? A great boss fight isn't just the fight itself. It's the challenge, the build-up, the atmosphere. It's the story significance, the spectacle, and the threat level. So, who will claim victory? In bronze, we have Colgera, taking third from the atmosphere and spectacle angle, but with a surprising taste of nostalgia for Zelda fans to just barely clinch its title. Bonus points for having multiple ways to take it out, but that's one of the modern Zelda duology's biggest strengths as is. The final aspect that helped it claim its spot is the build-up. The climb from the earth below, thousands of feet up with a fear of falling ever present. You know that if Link fails here, not only will he plummet lifelessly to the earth, but he'll have freed the monster to lay siege to the kingdom's citizens. Exciting stuff. Our silver award goes to Peter Parker. I may be rating this a little too high, but what can I say? This brawl represents so much more than just forcing that suit off Peter and bringing him back to his senses. It's about Miles rising above his doubt and into the role he was given. It's about teaching Peter that in order to save everyone, it's okay to look after yourself, something he often struggles with. Peter's tactics in this fight show off just how the suit truly does make him superior, at least in pure power level, to his normal self. Peter's reigns with the suit's strength and ambition pitted against Miles, but Miles rises to the occasion and becomes the hero he needs to be. In this moment, he saves the city alone. Never tell me that Miles Morales isn't Spider-Man. He is a fucking legend. Lastly, Our gold winner goes to Raphael. The hardest fight in BG3, a duel against a devil on his home turf with the odds stacked against you in every way. The arrogance, the locale, the showmanship, not to mention the brilliant use of double entendres in the lyrics of this arrogant, punchable pricks boss theme. The build-up throughout the entire game's narrative, the fact you can end dialogue early and make the fight harder by insulting his performance in the bedroom, and the ally you can make along the way who can turn the tide in your favor. What goes around, comes around. Helping someone to do what's right, my player character's ideal, versus helping those who don't have a choice in search for personal gain, Raphael's ideals. It's bloody brilliant, even if your mileage may vary based on how you choose to play your character. And he's entirely optional. You met him as a weakling, but now you're the one in control. Will you be doomed, detected, and caught? Will the House of Hope become your tomb? Or will you flip the script on this overgrown theater nerd and send him down another 3 levels of hell? Well, that's all the time we've got for tonight's awards show. I'd like to thank everyone for coming out tonight to support us. Oh god. I'm just receiving word that Matthew McConaughey has woken up from his tranquilized state and has breached containment.
Everyone will please panic.
I won't bore you with the details of how we got out of that one, but thankfully I hired good security, unlike someone I know. So, 2023 sure was a year in gaming, wasn't it? From the high highs of the legendary titles we've discussed, to the low lows of Crypto Bro Temple Run with Dookie Dash, the actual worst monetization I've ever seen in a game with Disney Speedstorm, and the baffling mystery surrounding the day before, I think we can all agree that it truly was the year of all time for games. But in all seriousness, the amount of quality that was put out by so many passionate devs in those 365 days is a testament to how well we have it nowadays. Yeah, there will always be shovelware and lazy cash grabs, looking at you, Cross Impact, but we are lucky to have so many great options due to a generation of creatives who grew up playing the legends beforehand and went on to bring their creativity and love into their work. Each and every one of my top 25, from the AAA to the smallest indie, has a lot of passion and human ingenuity lovingly crafted into each pixel, each line of code. They're a testament to what the brilliant human mind can put together when given the right guidance, state of mind, and a whole ton of heart. Games are an art form. Art is subjective, and I'm sick of seeing people and organizations like the Game Awards only give love to a select handful of the big games. It's such a wide hobby, and each and every indie game that showed up here had just as much care put into it as your Spider-Man 2s and Tears of the Kingdoms. I'm glad that we as a collective have finally come to the realization that all of these projects are worth playing. If you prefer big budget spectacle pieces or simple 16-bit style passion projects, that's valid as long as you can recognize they're all contributing to how great this hobby is. But what about you? What were your favorite games that came out in 2023? Are there any that I seriously missed out on? Should I have kept going and waited until 2025 to make it and made it the top 50? Any on my list that you didn't personally care for? What are your favorite aspects of the games that I mentioned, or any of your favorites from 2023? Let me know in the comments below. And hey, while you're here, I've got a lot more great videos you could check out on Kingdom Hearts, Multiverses, SpongeBob, Overwatch, and of course, more general gaming content about scrapped content in my favorite games, or games that need remakes. We even hit the nail on the head about Dead Rising getting one. I appreciate that if you made it all the way through, if you drop a like on the video and subscribe so you never miss an upload from me. And if you like what you saw today and would be interested in directly supporting the channel, my channel has been approved for YouTube memberships. You'll get some cool perks like having your name appear at the end of videos. However, please only do so if you can afford it. And if you can't, just leaving a comment or sharing the video with a friend helps us out too. Thanks for listening to me ramble on and gush about some great games for 2+, possibly even 3 hours. I haven't done the math yet.
You serious?
My name's been Gigi, the Nerd Incarnate, and I can't wait to see you in the next video. I hope you have an incredible day. Peace out. Oh, and please don't expect another one of these for 2024. I need a nice year-long nap. So, post-recording Gigi here. One of my best friends just had to tell me about this little game that also came out in 2023, the day after I uploaded all of my files to Google Drive from my editor. But I just wanted to highlight it. It wouldn't have cracked top 25, but you could call it an unofficial number 26. Kanban Cardboard is this cute, simple, relaxing 3D platformer with a Paper Mario-inspired aesthetic, where you play as a cute bunny girl DJ on an island made out of art supplies. It's not complex, you just run around collecting coins and CDs so she can do a concert at the top of the highest mountain, solving some simple puzzles and playing little mini-games. It doesn't break a lot of ground, but if you're just looking for something simple and cozy to spend an hour on, I think you can get a lot of enjoyment out of it. It's not anything super complicated or crazy, just a little indie game by passionate devs that wanted to make something cute. The album covers are a bit crazy though, methinks the devs might be furries. Nothing wrong with that though, it isn't harming anybody. I just personally love rabbits and cute things and cozy vibes, and that's all I needed from this. It's $7 on Steam, and I can absolutely see myself trying to speedrun the game in the future, as it's so short. That said, I could totally go for another game starring this adorable protagonist in this colorful world with a bit more substantial moveset and more stuff to do.